there's no better education than getting out and seeing the world.
The experiences are what you're going to remember in the long run.
Getting out to see the world has just really opened my eyes to a lot of things.
I know a little bit about a lot of random things, and that's because of travel.
We're going to learn so much more and stay up to date with these destinations.
It's going to help us get even better at building group itineraries.
I'm really looking forward to having great conversations about places.
Welcome to Destination Dispatch.
Hello, I'm Jim Delleman with Group Travel Odyssey. I want to thank you for joining Destination Dispatch today. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite places to go to, and that's Savannah, Georgia. But before we start the conversation, I do want to remind you, if you have not done so yet, if you're just joining us or you just haven't gotten around to doing it, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can hit that little subscribe button down here. Also, if you ring the bell, it'll notify you anytime we have new content on our channel. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn, Group Travel Odyssey, and make sure to like the Group Travel Odyssey Facebook page as well. I want to take a couple moments and bring on our co-hosts today. First, I want to bring on our lead navigator and the host of Business Navigator, Keith Snowd.
Hey, Jim. Hey.
How's it going?
It's great today.
Fantastic.
We're talking about an awesome destination.
I know. I'm very excited about this. I really, really am. Well, let's bring on our other terrible trio person here that we have. He is the host. Got to give us some sort of name here. He is the host of Destinations Beyond Expectations, a really fantastic podcast that you need to make sure to listen to. And we'll find out more about that later on. Please welcome Stevie G. Hey, Stevie.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing good.
Great.
Good. So I have to ask this because I know over the past couple destination dispatches that we've done, the two of you have seemed to have gone to this destination like on with a trip or something at the same time. Have you guys been to Savannah?
The streak is over. Yeah, it is over.
Yeah, the streak is over. We are done. Yeah. Although this is on the list of one of the places that I'm considering for summer vacation.
Well, I have to say you really must. I've been to Savannah. I love Savannah. There's so much fantastic to do in Savannah between the history and the food and the beaches and the seafood. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful place. And I'm sure we'll find out much, much more about that as we continue on. So keep your ears open, take some notes, Keith, because I'm sure you're going to want to go visit, especially after we get even more information about it. We're going to find out what makes Savannah so fantastic for your groups. Why should your groups go to Savannah? And to help us do that, we're going to bring on the Director of Domestic Group Tour and Entertainment Sales with Visit Savannah. Please welcome Anjuli King. Anjali,
hey.
Hello.
Hey, how are y'all?
Doing well.
Great.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Alive and kicking down here in Savannah.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. We were just saying, I am the only one out of the three of us this week. I'm the only one who's actually been to Savannah. So
shame on the rest of them.
I know, but we're going to give them some pointers, aren't we? We're going to give them some information so that way it's going to move up to the top of their lists of places to go to.
What you don't know, Anjali, is that you're actually here to help me plan my summer vacation.
I got you. Don't worry. I got you.
That's fantastic. Well, again, thank you for coming on today, and thank you for sharing all of this information. Our viewers, our tour operators that plan group travel are always looking for something new, and they're always looking for something fun and new destinations and just some really incredible experiences for their groups. What would you say is the biggest draw to bring a group into Savannah?
I'll be honest with you. There's so many different aspects, and that's such a loaded question, but there's so many different things between the charm of Savannah and like the food and our culture, our heartbeat of the city. We are also one of the few, what are there, like 6 open container cities in the United States? We're one of them.
Here.
Cheers. So, we can walk around freely with like that way as well. But for the most part, we also have an array of different types of history. I mean, being the last of the original 13 colonies for the United States, that just tells you kind of how far back our history goes. We have African American history. Of course, we have American history. Our culinary scene is just thriving and booming lately. So that's just a whole nother area that we can just kind of tap into a little bit later on.
Fantastic. Fantastic. What would you say group wise? You talked about open container, cities and stuff like that. What is your market? What would you say would be the ideal group market that you would want and would have the best time in Savannah?
To be honest, we're actually pretty open in that department. We have a lot of meeting and conventions here. Like you said, whether you're here on a FedEx conference or a nurses conference or the Georgia sharecroppers, anything like that. So a major conference is because we're also in the middle of an expansion right now. So we're doubling our size. So that is awesome. But also I am privy, of course, to my market specifically is motor coaches. So we have naturally that charm. A lot of times people pair Savannah to Charleston in a tour when you kind of go because it's just the historic coast tour side of things. But another great thing that's here in Savannah is we are also the founder of Girl Scouts. Juliet Gordon Lowe, her birthplace is here. So even Girl Scout groups are actually very prevalent here in Savannah. We see them thriving throughout the city, definitely during the summertime as they're out on break. But one area that we can't omit is we are only 18 miles from Tybee Island, which is our beach community. So even that crowd naturally pulls people in. I think what most people kind of know us for naturally is actually St. Patrick's Day. We are amongst the top. I think we rank number 2 or 3 amongst the United States for largest St. Patrick's Day celebrations. And although we know New York will hold that credit for being number 1, but we do compete every year with Boston and Chicago. But naturally, when you think about New York, Chicago, and Boston, Savannah has better weather during that time. We rocked, I think, 73 on St. Patrick's Day. The azaleas are blooming and the weather's just great. We have usually the Budweiser Clydesdales come and march in the parade as well. It's just a really good time, and you cannot beat just the history and the good Southern hospitality along the way.
So I know that I actually knew that the St. Patrick's Day thing. I actually knew St. Patrick's Day was big there. So that I feel like I came to the table with a good piece of knowledge. But I know that you have a lot of other festivals and events during the rest of the year. Can you highlight a couple of the other things that happen in Savannah, because there's a lot going on?
There is always something going on. It's funny. I think sometimes the general question that I get is, when's the off season in Savannah? I'm like, we don't have an off season. It's like, because the weather's just great year round. But some of the great festivals you'll find is like the Jewish festival is always in the fall. We also have a great Oktoberfest here in Savannah. My favorite is the Greek festival because I love me a good gyro, and I'm talking authentic good gyros. That's always during that time, and I could always go for some baklava. But nonetheless, if we have the wiener dog races, that always happens during October Festival, so that's really cool. We used to have I think they're reinstating it a lot of times, and I'll be honest, a lot of this has shifted a little bit due to COVID. But prior to all that, we had a bacon festival. We still have the seafood festival. It's always a festival. And if it's not necessarily a festival, I can guarantee there's a 5K run happening as well.
Did you say wiener dog races?
Yes.
Okay.
They are amazing. But
that seems like something I want to attend. I want
you
to see
should
that.
definitely. The only thing that makes it a little scary and sad is that they have some great bratwurst on the grill next to it going on. So that's kind of contradictory, but I love it.
Oh, that's funny.
That's fantastic. So Savannah has all these great events, but one thing I was curious about when we were preparing for this was to learn more about the spooky side of Savannah, because there's a tie to ghosts and ghost tours. Yeah. Can you talk about the spooky side of Savannah and how can groups experience a ghost tour?
Oh my gosh. So ghost-wise, as mentioned, again, being one of the original 13 colonies, we are one of your most haunted cities in the United States. Just to be honest, you can do anything from a trolley ghost tour, you can do a walking ghost tour, or you can do a little bit of a creepier side and actually do a hearse drawn ghost tour. You're actually in a live hearse, and I was like, and most people can't live and talk about their ride in a hearse twice. So therefore, it's like that's probably a pretty cool experience as well. But it is a lot, and some things actually kind of give me chill bumps with some of the history that you learn. For example, Dar Cemetery. You should definitely take your time and look that one up, because one of your original, Mr. Button, who was one of the people who signed the Declaration of Independence, he's buried there. But what's so unique about that colonial park type cemetery is that the gate, believe it or not, kind of goes through some of the tombs and things like that. And of course, you have to think when they did it, no, they did not physically build a gate to necessarily go through the tombs and things like that. But because as time went on and you start developing and things like that, Abercorn in that one area, they had to pave the streets for cars to go and stuff. So on the back wall of that cemetery, you'll just see a whole bunch of plaques lined on the wall because pretty much they paved over the grave sites. And it's just like, so you're walking on dead people every day. And it's like, this is kind of creepy. But it's a lot of just that spooky like history, but a beautiful cemetery that I will say that you can definitely visit, that I personally have family buried in and things like that, is Bonaventure Cemetery. Those hanging oak trees, the Spanish moss in them and everything, it's beautiful, to be honest with you. And it's definitely something that I think is worth seeing. It's definitely a beautiful place of rest.
That's fantastic. Another thing, I did a walking ghost tour when I was there, and that is, of course, it's after sunset, it's dark, and it just gets darker and darker as you go through some of these squares and stuff. But that, what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is the squares, the way that the city is kind of built around these different squares. That is just so amazing. And also, I mean, those were built with a specific purpose, weren't they?
Yeah. So as I say, Jimmy O, which is James Oglethorpe, basically he kind of did like checker like patterns in each of the city, and it's basically just to one maneuver, but also to strategically be great against the enemy, I guess you could say. But each of those squares are quite lovely because they all have different monuments inside of them at the time, different monuments or history, like Chief Tamachichi, which was the Yamakra Indians. He was the leader of them. He's buried in one of those cemeteries. Like I said, Nathaniel Green is buried in one of those squares. I'm serious when I say it's so many different little things. But Pulaski, he's buried in one of the squares. But we have 22 of the original 24 squares are still here in Savannah intact. So when we say Savannah is a walkable city, it's not a tiring walkable city. You really can just sit down and go but so many feet. And these aren't New York City blocks. These are Savannah city blocks, to where you can just, grab something to eat along the way, because we have an amazing food scene and walking food tours as well.
That's really wonderful. And I mean, the architecture as well. You were talking about the original 24 squares. Each of these squares has most, if not all, of the original buildings that were built at the same time that that old Savannah area was built up. So just to experience that architecture with the oaks and the Spanish moss and everything, it's just one of the most charming cities that I've actually ever been to. And it just, and like you said, Southern hospitality, there's absolutely nothing like it.
No, we love it. We will feed you and say we love y'all and feed you, and then say love you and then feed you, then give you another drink and then feed you again and everything else. That's how we do.
We do like that.
That sounds like a fam tour.
Yeah. It's almost, and that's the thing too, like one restaurant, to be honest with you, for example, let's go with Mrs. Wilkes. It's a family style dining. So you literally stand in this line. Literally, I'm from Savannah, born and raised, but say you guys were to come to Savannah or someone else and like say 10 people are standing in line or 20 of you, they literally will say, okay, the next 10 people come on in. I didn't know you when I stood in line, but I'm going to sit at this table with you. I'm going to dine with you, and we're going to pass the food around like Thanksgiving style, family style. And I'm going to sit in and just ask them questions like, hey, so where are you from? And that's Savannah. That's just what it is. It gives you that southern charm, and you're eating things like fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, candy yams, lima beans, just good old southern food. So I tell everybody too, before you come to Savannah, lose 10 because you're going to gain that 10 while you're here.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a shortage of food.
No.
And the pralines. I mean, come on.
Yes.
What's not to like about that?
So
and the ice cream. So
this is true.
So obviously you're a native from Savannah.
I am.
What's your favorite thing about the city? What keeps you there? What's your favorite thing?
I've visited, and I would like to say I'm an avid traveler, and I do go to so many different cities, but I'm a dork when it comes to just loving what I kind of have, if that makes any sense. Like, I love to travel. I love to see other cities. I love to see like Charleston or Philadelphia or Dallas or Nashville or any of the other cities. Like, I enjoy going to those other places, but there still is no place like home, It just feels normal to be here. I'm very blessed to say mom and dad is like, yay, I'm from Savannah, because I'm from probably one of the most hottest destinations anybody in their life would ever want to visit. But I don't know. It's home. It's just home. And I mean, it just feels good to be here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What do you think? Go ahead, Stevie.
Sorry, real quick. I was just going to say, as someone who's lived there for your whole life and a native to Savannah, you've probably seen a good amount of changes because it's such a popular city for tourists and probably people moving there as well.
Oh, gee.
What are some things that are new maybe to Savannah that someone was there maybe 5 or 10 years ago that they might not be aware of?
So the newest, hottest thing in Savannah is the JW Marriott Plant Riverside District. That is the Mac Daddy of them all. It is a beautiful property. It is originally the Savannah power plant that sourced the energy for Savannah. But Mr. Kessler went in and he actually pretty much gutted it, but kept all the good stuff and made a 410, I think it's 407 room hotel there at the property. And it's really cool. So like, just to see those cool features along the way. For example, you'll see in one of the restaurants, it's the Baobab Lounge, he turned the breaker room where there actually would have had the breaker switches and stuff. He actually transitioned those into a wine cellar. So it's actually pretty cool to kind of still see that, but you can still see the levers and things like that in there. He actually still did some exposed walls, like glass walls, so you can see the original structure, the original Savannah red brick, that's in there as well. It has so many restaurants and rooftop bars, it's not even funny. But the JW Marriott Plant Riverside District is literally what we say, a district. He has brought an extra 1/4 mile to our Riverwalk and extended it that way on that side of the river, on the west side of the river, that we're very proud of. So that's on the west side, but on the east side, we are still building it as it is, but right now we have the brand new Thompson Savannah Hotel that's in what we call the Eastern Wharf. And that is a district that is up and coming, and that is actually looking beautiful, and it's going to be another great hot spot whenever they finish on that side of the river. So those are probably the two newest, hottest things that is a great heartbeat to Savannah.
That's really, really great. What, along with all of this new stuff, what do you think is one thing or something that a lot of groups overlook? What should they be? What do you think is one thing that they should be including on their visit that they don't necessarily think of?
To be honest, I would say actually a cooking class. I think naturally when you come and visit and you eat or you experience everything that Savannah has to offer, I think honestly a cooking class is a nice little twist that I think people should definitely add in there. We talked earlier about pralines. There is a praline making class, so that way when you do get back home, you can actually make those sweet treats. I think that's probably the most underrated great group activity that's out there here in Savannah that people just don't take as much advantage of.
That's just fantastic. Keith, write that one down too for your information.
Praline making, yes.
Yeah.
You're only saying that so that the next time we get together, you want me to make praline.
Well, it's an easy dessert. There you go.
Exactly. Well, we look forward to continuing this conversation, and we'll be back in just a moment. But first, we're going to hear a quick message about our partners.
Group Travel Odyssey would like to take a moment to thank our amazing partners, including Book My Group, Travel Advocates, We Travel, Broadway Inbound, and Fly My Group. These partnerships help make business without boundaries possible, and we encourage our viewers to learn more about these wonderful companies. Now, back to Destination Dispatch.
Well, before we left, we were talking, of course, about food and candy and things like that. But we want to thank you for giving us all that incredible information. And now what we would like to do is I'm going to turn this over to Keith and Anjali. And if you guys could just go ahead and walk us through a sample itinerary of what your groups can experience, that would be fantastic.
Awesome.
Great. Anjali, I'm going to share my screen, and I want to share a couple things first before we get started. We have taken the itineraries that you have sent us and we have put them into GTO, and they are under the templates, the trip templates button that's in Sales Manager, the Sales Manager app. When you go in and search Savannah, you will see Visit Savannah's templates, and you can click on that. And actually, after the show, the link to the Destination Dispatch episode will be here, so you can watch it right from GTO. But I'm going to pull up an itinerary that we pulled right out of GTO. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here so that everybody can see it. And then you and I can have a conversation about it. Oh, that might be a little too big. There we go. And that way we can kind of walk through this itinerary together and take it step by step. So I'll let you take the lead here and talk about this 3-day, 2-night tour to Savannah.
All right. Well, first and foremost, you cannot kick off any trip to Savannah without really taking a trolley tour. I'll be honest with you, it's the best way to kind of get the overview of the city, whether it's we have several, actually we have 3 trolley companies that offer different things, but in general, the history doesn't change. So you have Old Town Trolley, you also have Old Savannah Tours, and then you have Kelly Tours. Each of them are different and unique in their own way. Old Town Trolley is more of a national account, so you will probably notice those in your other cities such as Key West or San Diego, Boston, New York, things like that is where you'll find them. Old Savannah Tours is a local company, but what makes them unique is they actually bring Savannah's history to life. What does that mean? You're actually going to find a Forrest Gump along the way. You're actually going to find a Southern Belle along the way. You're actually going to find a pirate maybe at the pirate's house along the way. So they do things like that and do skits per se along the way. Kelly Tours, most of them may know them as a charter company, but they actually do great history tours as well in the off-beaten path areas, which is something that I appreciate for someone that may have been to Savannah once, or you're like yourself, Jim. Maybe you've already done the classic one. Maybe that's where Kelly Tours can now kick in because they do more the Victorian district and the Starland district, which is another area of Savannah as well.
So, Anjali, with those tours, with all of those companies, and correct me if I'm wrong, most of them typically you can book just the tour, or you can actually book some of the activities we're going to see here and book a full day and kind of get on and off, right, throughout the city.
That is true. That is true. Now, granted, some of the areas that we're going to talk about initially in this beginning half, some of those areas are a little bit hard just because of the locations of them for this one in particular. But yes, so for example, you can do like one of the tours, and you can include admission to like the Owens Thomas House or the Telfair Academy, or you can do the Juliet Gordon Low Home. Those are just some of the things just to name that you can actually include and do the hop on, hop off pass is what we call it.
Okay, great. Okay.
But as mentioned, the Savannah History Museum is actually kind of the start where you can actually pick up your trolley tour itself in the visitor center. So it's actually connected to it. So you kind of get 2 for 1 deal there, which is amazing. Along with the Georgia State Railroad Museum, which is right behind the Savannah Visitor Center as well. And they actually do a simulation of what it was like to actually what's the little carts called? It just went blank. But you kind of do up and down, almost like that motion, I guess you could say, with the kids and stuff. So it's actually a great hands-on activity for student traveling as well. Old Fort Jackson, as we all know, is one of your oldest forts for the state of Georgia. So that's actually located here. And also my personal favorite is the Pinpoint Heritage Museum, which is out in the Moon River District. So that's actually going to be a little bit more on the outskirts of it, but a lot of where you mostly the historic scene of the canopy of trees, where you see that's actually at Wormslow, which is pretty much the back door of Pinpoint Heritage Museum. So like I said, that's in the Moon River District. And then you cannot come on a Monday night and not do the Savannah Riverboat. The Savannah Riverboat, every Monday night, seasonally, through March through, I believe, October, they do the Monday night gospel dinner cruise. It is phenomenal. They pretty much gather many different churches throughout the African American community here in Savannah, and they pretty much do a beautiful performance over dinner as you go up and down the Savannah River. Sometimes you can get really lucky during that time and see those big container cargo ships going down the canal as well, because most people don't realize it, but we're actually your third largest port in the United States. So it's actually pretty cool to see those cargo ships going up and down the canal as well here for Savannah. So definitely that's the way to kick it off. And by that time, you're ready to hit the sack on a Monday night. I promise.
I would say that's a full day, but ending it with the gospel dinner cruise, you better go home happy or you weren't paying attention.
Well, you say thank you, Lord, for another day, and you go to bed. So then the next morning, we're going to get up, and I enjoy the Mighty 8th Air Force Museum. It's dealing with the 8th Infantry Air Force individuals that, of course, did amazing things for our American history. And then they actually also, the Mighty 8th Air Force Museum, they actually partner also with the World War II History Trail. So for those history buffs that enjoy good World War II history, they actually have an entity that's partnered with them with the Coastal Heritage Society down in St. Simon's Island, Georgia, which is a museum that's located there as well. But you'll find Air Force history here. You'll also find Girl Scout history, because Girl Scouts did play a part actually in the Air Force history as well. So you can learn all about those great things. And they have an amazing pub in there, Miss Vicky's Pub, inside of the museum. And I'm telling you, her mac and cheese is bomb.com. I promise you.
That sounds awesome.
Yes, I'm serious. We're serious about our mac and cheese around here. But but then as you are still in, of course, Savannah, and I mentioned earlier during your trolley tour, the classic tour of Savannah, you can hop off at the Owens Thomas House and Slave Quarters, which is a nice little gem that we have in Savannah. It's one of my personal favorite homes actually to visit and tour for Savannah, because you actually still see the original slave quarters where the cook and maybe her husband and a child once lived to take care of that facility. It's one of your oldest intact slave quarters actually for the state of Georgia. So we're very proud to still have that piece of history here in town as well. The Green Meldrum House, I don't know if you know, but Sherman's March to the Sea. He started burning everything from Atlanta all the way down, but when he got to Savannah, he was like, holy crap, this is pretty dope. I like this place. So we had cotton, we had good money, good things like that. So he gave it to a president, he gave it as the city as a gift to President Lincoln for Christmas, because he knew there was worth like money here, good things to come out from here. So the Green Meldrum House was his headquarters. So you can actually still see the bed he slept in, and where he actually wrote the president from that desk and things like that. The Davenport House Museum, I know it's like a lot of houses and it's kind of hard sometimes to just pick one, which is why we kind of all threw them on there. But the Davenport House is a very strong and integral part of Savannah. And I'm going to be all womany and say that it makes me happy, because it was a group of ladies that saved the Davenport House, which started the preservation era for the city of Savannah. Years ago, they wanted to actually knock down that house and make it a parking garage. And these ladies said, heck no, not going to happen. And they raised up enough funds, and they ended up keeping that house. And that's what kicked off the preservation era for the Preservation Society for Savannah, which is why we still have all these other beautiful homes that I talked about earlier. And then just around the corner, actually, from the Davenport House, you got to go to Leopolds. Okay, let me tell you, if you think you've had butter pecan ice cream, you have not had butter pecan ice cream, so you've had Leopolds. My personal favorite is the chocolate chewies and cream. It's basically like chewy brownie pieces in there. But anyway, delicious ice cream. And the owner, Mr. Stratton Leopold, he is actually a former director from Hollywood, actually, that has done several scenes. So many actors and actresses, whenever we do have them in town, they tend to swing by Leopold's as well, which is another separate hat of mine, but another booming scene for Savannah and the state of Georgia is the film industry. So by that time, we need to hit the sack. We're done with day 2.
Well, so far, my tour consists of sampling every mac and cheese known to man, and now 4 different flavors of ice cream. So
that's correct.
Yeah, I feel like 10 pounds is not enough to lose before I get there.
Well, I'm gonna make it more complicated and tell you another thing in Savannah is the shrimp and grits. So
jeez.
Oh yeah.
You're not helping me, Anjali.
I'm trying. You know, I would be doing a disservice to my community if I did not share this information with you.
You're right. Oh man. I'm hungry now.
I am too. And I just ate lunch.
Well, if you do the praline making class we talked about, then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
See, exactly.
Yeah, but then I can't have 2 desserts. I gotta go to the ice cream
Who
at some
said?
point.
Who says so?
Who
says?
You both are enablers, is what you are.
I am simply an ambassador.
Exactly.
So on day 3, that morning, we're going to get up. The Savannah African Art Museum is actually a beautiful African, and I like to focus on that word because it has over 6,000 artifacts from, what I say, the motherland. It is a collection of just so many different beautiful pieces. Something as simple as what I didn't even realize was a birthing chair is actually there in the museum from back in the day. You know, it's just a lot of great artifacts from Africa, from different continents of Africa inside of there. But as we mentioned, we said this praline making class 2 seconds ago. You would do that at Chef Darren's kitchen table, which is actually right around the corner from there. And like you said, a meal can be included because you cooked it. So there's that.
Wow.
But then also, the American Prohibition Museum is actually unique to our city. It is the only one of its kind, actually, with being here, because in Savannah, we said we are not going dry. With that being said, we have a beautiful museum right there in City Market, downtown Savannah, which is actually on the 2nd floor of City Market. It pretty much covers the entire 2nd floor, but it has a real-life speakeasy in the back of it. So you can actually go back there and learn how to do the Charleston and enjoy some good Chatham Artillery Punch, which is a known drink here in Savannah. So there's that nugget for you, Keith. So
Okay.
make sure you have some Chatham Artillery Punch when you come and visit. But nonetheless, it's literally just all the good history of Savannah and what we said no to during the Prohibition era here in town. But no trip to Savannah is incomplete, of course, if you do not visit the Savannah Theater. The Savannah Theater is one of your oldest continual operating theaters in the United States. Granted, it has had its fair share of fires here and there, but nonetheless, it is still an operating theater over the years. But it is beautiful. My personal favorite is every year around the Christmas holiday. It is something called a Christmas tradition. It really just kicks off the season for me. I love Christmas, honestly. I love Savannah at Christmas because you actually get to smell real garland around the city. Many of the homes kind of decorate in that real garland and things like that. But that production itself is pretty nice, and it's very neat to see, just almost like a Broadway play here in Savannah as well.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and we have a lot to do. And what's crazy is that seriously is just like the tip of the iceberg of what Savannah indeed has to offer. You know, like I said to you earlier, we even have a beach community, so you can do things like dolphin tours out there. You can do pedal bikes. We also have those throughout the city as well. Walking food tours. I think that's probably the best way that I always suggest to people if you're really on a time crunch and you really want to get little eats along the way of everything. Do Savannah Taste Experience. They are amazing, and they learn how to pretty much consolidate everything that you like into 1 square mile. That's not too much walking and things like that, but you still get to grab some of these great tastes of the South.
Well, I think that after I eat all this food, I'm going to need one of those paddle bikes.
Yeah. Pedal on.
I think you should also schedule the walking it off tour. That's
I love
That's fantastic, Anjali. I'm super excited. All of those things just sound wonderful. It sounds like just a great experience for anyone, for groups, individuals, you name it.
Yeah.
So thank you for going through that with us.
You're very
And like I said, it's available for any of our GTO members. If you go to the trip templates button on your home screen of your Sales Manager app and search for Savannah.
And also, Anjali, if they wanted to get in touch with you or they wanted to find out more about Savannah, how can they do that?
So all of our handles, of course, are at visitsavannah.com, whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, even YouTube. We have YouTube and we have a podcast. All of those things can be at, of course, visitsavannah.com, or you can do at Visit Savannah on each of those handles. Personally, again, I'm Anjali. You can definitely email me directly if you have any questions. I am at King, King, at visitsavannah.com. So you can always reach out to me directly as well, and I'll be more than happy to help you.
Well, and Jim, we should also mention that all of Anjali's information and her templates are also accessible in the Supplier Manager app under Visit Savannah.
That's true.
So, and her contact information is there as well.
All of our users can look up her information in our GTO system.
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, Anjali, thank you so much. And it brought back so many memories of my visit, and also made me realize I can come back several times and do a completely different itinerary and still not see and do everything that Savannah has to offer.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's a fantastic destination for groups. It's a fantastic destination for everybody. So I'm sure you'll see Keith there probably very, very soon.
June.
Well,
I'll let you know.
Yeah, reach out to me. Send me a message. I'd love to meet up with you.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Anjali.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.
You're so welcome. Well, just remember, if you've not done so yet, to follow us on, LinkedIn. You can also follow us on Facebook. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and again, if you ring that little bell, you'll be notified anytime we have new content like this posted up on our YouTube channel. Also, I do want to remind you, on Tuesdays, we do a little program called GTO Coach and Go. So that's every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And what we do is we'll bring on the experts from the GTO family, and we will take you through some of the updates and some of the new features, even some of the old features, to show you how they can work for you a little bit better. And again, that is 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, every Tuesday, and we hope to see you there. Keith, if they want more information about GTO, how can they get that?
So you can go to our website at grouptravelodyssey.com, or you can contact any of us, Jim at gtonetwork.com, or Keith at gtonetwork.com, or Stephen at gtonetwork.com. All of us will be happy to respond and share information. You can also, if you go to our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, you will actually see a lot of different the past episodes of Coach and Go. You'll learn a lot about the system, but there's also an overview video there about GTO and what we do and what we're all about. So I encourage you to watch that, because I'm sure that anybody who works in the group tour business, the minute you watch it, you're going to have about 100 questions, and that's fine. We'd love to answer all 100 of them. So.
Fantastic. And Stevie, how can they follow you or listen to your podcast, Destinations Beyond Expectations?
Sure, yeah. Destinations Beyond Expectations is the podcast designed for students of travel. New episodes come out every Friday. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. This week's episode, I'm joined by Natalia from Adventuresque Travel Boutique. And Natalia talks all about Mérida, Mexico, which is a great place to go to learn about Mayan culture. It's a very fantastic destination, and I really look forward to sharing that episode with you all. So destinationsbeyondexpectations.com, listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. And I hope to have you guys listen to that next episode.
It is a fantastic destination. So that's a great one.
Excellent. Well, that's wonderful. And a reminder to everybody again, Destination Dispatch will happen next week at on Thursday at 2 p.m. as well. So make sure you do join us again next week for our next fantastic destination. And for now, that's all we have for you, and we hope to see you next week.
Thank you for watching this episode of Destination Dispatch. We invite you to stay connected with Group Travel Odyssey on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And be sure to check out more of our media, including GTO Coach and Go and the Destinations Beyond Expectations podcast. Please visit our website, grouptravelodyssey.com, where you can learn more about GTO and request a demo. Group Travel Odyssey, business without boundaries.